Hey Dave, come here quick, there's something you gotta see. That man has got a dancing bear tied up to that old tree. And it's dance, dance, Dakota dance, all around the country store. Me and Sweet Betty ain't never seen a bear that can dance before. Well, it's a 1-step, 2-step, 3-step, 4. Follow Dakota and he dance some more.
What's up, YouTube? It's your girl, the Mac of all trades, and I have a different kind of video that I'm bringing you guys. I'm not exactly sure how to word it, but it's emotional. It'll probably make you cry. It's gonna make me cry during the course of doing this video. This is the story of my dad's adoption. But with that being said, he was adopted from birth and did not find his birth family until he was 50 years old. And so this is a story of John Lee Bremer and his adoption and the craziness around it. It's not like there were computers. There wasn't a digital trail to follow. Everything was paper letters, if there was even a paper letter, or word of mouth, things of that nature. So it can be a little hard to follow, but I have done my best with what I have and what my dad had. My dad has since passed away. If any of you are new here on my channel, my dad passed away 5 years ago from a motorcycle accident. But I want to bring this story to YouTube and on my channel because I truly feel that this is a story that needs to be told. I think it's an interesting story. I think it's like one of those stories that tugs on your heartstrings and makes you happy for the person. I just want this story to be out there because I think this story is just amazing, that it's too good of a story to not share. You know what I mean? With all that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into the story. This is Mabel Virginia Clark. She ends up going by a bunch of different aliases later on in her life, but she was born February 1st, 1926 in Quick City, Kansas. Mabel primarily goes by the name Virginia. So when you hear me say Virginia, this is who I'm referring to. This is Floyd Joseph Hebert. He was born February 18th, 1926 in Louisiana. I'm not sure if it was in Baton Rouge or Lafayette, but it was somewhere around that area. Sometime in 1944, Virginia gave birth to a daughter named Beverly Ann Dice. The father is unknown, but Beverly went to live with grandparents. From left to right, it's Norma, Charlotte, and Virginia at the Green Lantern Cafe in Lawrence, Kansas. This picture was taken sometime between 1944 and 1946. And it obviously looks like Virginia is pregnant during that time. As you can see from the way her apron is bulging in the front. She just looks pregnant. On September 15th, 1947, Floyd and Virginia get married. On October 6th, 1947, a letter is written to a Miss McBride from Virginia. How she came about Miss McBride's information is still unknown. Nobody knows how Virginia got Miss McBride's information. I'm going to attempt to read this letter. There's some parts that I just couldn't understand the cursive writing, but we'll go through it and I will just say blank. I cannot decipher. The letter states, "Dear Miss McBride, I realize I do not know you, but I would like to write this letter. Miss Dice told me that a friend of yours wants to adopt a baby. She said that for a while she considered adopting Beverly for blank. Anyway, here is my case. I am young and have been married. My parents blank. But now I find that I am to have a baby in December. My parents say it's my fault and they will offer no solution. So I must give my baby up when it's born. I don't want to put the child in an orphanage. So I would like to know if your friend would consider what I'm asking. Perhaps you wonder why I don't try to find the guy who was my husband for such a few weeks. It was 6 to be exact. Well, it seems as though he didn't care because he has left town, so that is that. Seems as though everyone is going against me. Since I'm young, I've never had any responsibility of any sort up until now. I simply do not know what to do. Surely, if your friend wants to adopt a baby, it really doesn't matter if it is a boy or a girl. I should think she should want a baby only a few days old, so as it won't be much trouble to learn habits. Maybe I'm wrong, but please write and let me know at once, because I can't go on much longer. I said, I now find I am to have a baby. You see, I've never had any reason to think so until I felt movement. I've had nothing go wrong, so there is one thing that has worked for me. Will you please think over what I've said and let me know at once? You can write to me there, Miss F.J. Hebert, Hamilton Hotel, room 219, Kansas City, Missouri. The friend that Virginia was asking Miss McBride about happened to be Ann Bremer. Ann Bremer was friends with Miss McBride. And like I said, we don't know how Virginia got Miss McBride's information, but somehow she did. This is Ann and Donald Bremer. They are who will come to adopt this baby from Virginia. Ann is the friend that Virginia was referencing in the letter to Miss McBride. This letter is super confusing simply because this letter was written to Virginia from someone named Pat. Then on the back of this letter, Virginia wrote a letter to someone else. That someone was Miss McBride. In my personal opinion, I feel like Virginia was trying to manipulate. I may be wrong, but I just get the feeling that she was trying to manipulate Miss McBride into sending her money or something. Again, we don't know the context of this letter, but for some reason, Anne obtained this letter and had it. So it had to have meant something. This letter is to Virginia from someone named Pat. It says, Dear Virginia, sorry I haven't written, but what I've got to say is so disappointing that I put off writing. Hope you don't think I'm telling you a lie. But I got the letter with the $50 and made all preparations to leave. I went to a wrestling match on Tuesday, and you know what? Blank, blank, blank. And someone took my billfold, so what am I going to do now? I moved here with a friend because I couldn't stand my folks anymore, and guess I made a blank move. Please tell me what I am to do now. I know I can't work, and blank isn't far off now. I know you will be disgusted with me. Please write and tell the people about it. Tell them I was very happy to hear they wanted the baby. I hate to ask you, but can you spare any more money? After all, I hope blank, blank, you blank. Please write at once, as I am writing to know what to do. All my love, Pat. Now, for some reason, in this letter, they're confusing it that someone else is pregnant, not Virginia. That Pat is pregnant. I don't know if there really was a Pat, if they were friends, if they were both pregnant. We don't know. But for some reason, this letter is just really, really confusing. On the back, as you can see, is a letter to Miss McBride from Virginia. This letter reads, Dear Miss McBride, please excuse my writing on the back of Pat's letter, but I guess it will do as well as anything else. Will you please write and tell me what you think now? Since I am not working, I don't see how I can afford to send Pat any more money. I sent the $50, the fare is $34 and some cents, and I thought $15 would be enough for her to eat on. I must close for now, but will you please write and tell me what I should write and tell her? She was certainly happy when I told her the people would take the baby. Please answer at once. Sincerely yours, Miss F.J. Hebert, Hamilton Hotel, room 219, Kansas City, Missouri. Then, on January 4th, 1948, Virginia gave birth to John Lee Clark. Ann and Don Bremer adopted John Lee Clark, changing his name to John Lee Bremer. These are the actual receipts from when my dad, John Lee Bremer, was born. But what I find interesting is that Virginia was signing all of the paperwork in the hospital as Virginia Clark and not signing them as Miss F.J. Bear like she was in her letters, which I think is just really, really weird. So she did have a tendency to use different aliases, changing her name. Her name's actually Mabel, but she would go by Virginia Clark, Virginia Dice, which I think Dice was her previous married name, but she would use it as a maiden name sometimes. So it's just really unclear what she was doing using so many different aliases. But Anne and Don Bremer adopted my dad from Virginia. It makes me wonder if Floyd even knew that the baby existed, because as she said in the letter before, that her husband had left. He was a truck driver for Sears. So I'm really unsure. Then on January 17th, 1948, Anne and Don Bremer received a letter from the State Department of Social Welfare of Kansas about the adoption of my dad, John Bremer. The letter reads, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Bremer, we have received a notice from the Johnson County Probate Court that you have filed a petition to adopt a minor male child. As you no doubt know, the State Department of Social Welfare is required by law to undertake a social investigation and to make a report to the court concerning the adoption. The social investigation includes a study of your home and a study of the child. The agency also has a continuing supervisory responsibility during the 6 months awaiting period prior to the granting of the final order of adoption. Petition for final order of adoption may be filed 6 months after the interlocutory decree has been granted. An agency representative will plan to see you within the next few weeks and will explain further the purpose of the social study and the type of information which is required for a report to the court. It would be helpful if you would plan to have on hand all documents in your possession, such as marriage certificate and divorce decrees, if you have been previously married. The State Department of Social Welfare is primarily concerned, of course, in protecting the interests of the child. We are also concerned in protecting the interests of the adoptive parents, and we welcome the opportunity to be of service to you in this process. Very sincerely, Dorothy W. Bradley, Director, Division of Child Welfare." On February 1st, 1948, Anne Bremer writes back to Miss Bradley. She says, "Dear Miss Bradley, in answer to your letter of January 17th, this is to let you know that we are now living at 5328 Reed Road, Mission, Kansas. Due to the fact that our home is not finished as of yet, and it would be too cold for the baby," which I have to laugh, you guys, because I'm like, okay, it's too cold for the baby. Anyway, we would welcome your visit here at any time, and also welcome all suggestions. Please let us know when to expect you. Very sincerely, your Miss Donald E. Bremer. Next, another letter from the Department of Social Welfare in Johnson County. This one sent to Mr. and Mrs. Donald E. Bremer from Miss Nichols, County Director. It says, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Bremer, we find it necessary to secure additional information regarding the natural mother of John Lee Clark before a favorable recommendation can be made to the court. We would like to discuss this with you and are asking that you make an appointment for an interview in the welfare office in Olathe at your earliest convenience. Office hours are from 8 to 5 Monday through Friday and 8 to 12 on Saturday. Appointments may be made by calling Olathe 668. That's how long ago this was, where there was literally 3-digit phone numbers. Then Anne Bremer wrote a letter back in response to that one. saying, "Dear Miss Nichols, I'm replying to your letter of February 12th concerning our petition for adoption of John Lee Clark, now in our custody. Let me explain again how we gained information about the child and how he came to be placed in our care for adoption. Sometime last summer, Miss McBride received a letter asking if she knew of someone who would care to adopt a child. The letter stated that it was an illegitimate child and both parties were in good health. Naturally, I was very much interested. The letter gave no address, only a phone number. We called and met the girl downtown. She gave us no address. We gave her Dr. Carbaugh's name and address, and she contacted him. That is absolutely all the information we were able to obtain. Of course, it is in our interest as well as the court to obtain as much information as possible regarding the baby's natural mother. We have tried in every way we know how to gain additional information. We've had no contact with the girl other than the doctor since then. We will try to get any additional information and give it to you. Since the letter has been lost, we do not even have the phone number. She would not tell us who gave her Miss McBride's address. If you still want us to come to your office, let us know and we shall be happy to do so for the welfare of the child. We will do everything in our power to help you in any way that we can. We would welcome any visit to see the baby at any time. Yours very truly, Miss Donald E. Bremer." And then came another letter dated February 12th, 1948 from Miss Nichols again to Mr. and Mrs. Donald E. Bremer. "Dear Miss Bremer, thank you very much for your letter of February 16th giving the information about John Lee's mother. It has been necessary to ask for an extension on this hearing in order to secure more information. We still feel it necessary to discuss the situation with you, and your husband will call me at 668 Olathe. We will be glad to work out an appointment that will be convenient for you." This is where I want to go back into Virginia in this photo. Clearly, she looks pregnant. And this State Department of Social Welfare history of a child to be adopted paperwork. With this paperwork, I think it confirms that there was a child born by Virginia between when Beverly was born and when John was born. It has an unknown father. The mother's listed as Virginia Clark. Her age is listed as 30, but if you do the math, she only would have been 22 when she gave birth to my father. She was 18 when she gave birth to Beverly. So there was a 4-year gap between Beverly and my dad, John Bremer. Or John Lee Clark, whichever way you want to look at it. Back of the paperwork, when it says how many other siblings there are to my dad, it lists 2 children, no names, even though Beverly was living with grandparents, and Beverly would have been around the age of 3/4 when my dad was born, and then it shows another child up there at the top. But the age is really hard to decipher. So we truly believe that there is another child between the birth of Beverly and my dad. Then on January 8th, 1949, exactly 1 year and 4 days after my dad, John Lee, was born, Virginia gave birth to another son named Thomas A. Bear. The father is the same as my dad, Floyd Joseph A. Bear. Then a few years later, after Don and Ann adopted my dad, they also adopted a baby girl and named her Donna. Donna is of no relation to my dad. She wasn't born from Virginia. parents unknown. And then on January 9th, 1953, 5 years and 5 days after my dad was born, Virginia gave birth to another son named Gerald Wayne Hebert. The father, again, was Floyd. And I want it to be noted that around this time, in like 7th or 8th grade, my dad was finally told that he was adopted. And that's when everything changed, as you can tell from his school pictures. He quit smiling. My dad said that from the time he found out he was adopted, he always kind of assumed something a little bit early on, but didn't quite know what the word adopted meant. Apparently his cousins would tease him and call him little adopted Johnny, and he really didn't understand what it meant. But then when he did, as you could see, his pictures changed. He quit smiling. My dad then, after high school, went to Vietnam on the Refer a Friend program, where him and his best friend Dale went to Vietnam together. My dad always said that his adopted dad was not the nicest man in the world. He was actually quite mean, and was physically and mentally abusive to him. And my dad said he thinks that the reason why that was is because Don was the reason that him and Ann could not have their own children and had to adopt. So my dad kind of said that that was part of the reason he thought of why Don was so mean to him as a child and even a young adult into adulthood. But Anne was a complete saint, according to my dad, the best mother you could ask for. So one random day, I believe in the summer of 1996, when it was either 95 or 96, my dad was driving. My grandma had a summer house in Roaring River, Missouri, and my dad was driving grandma back to our house in Overland Park, Kansas. And out of nowhere, Grandma Ann says, "You have a sister named Beverly." Out of nowhere, she's just staring out the window, and just out of nowhere says, "You have a sister named Beverly, and we almost adopted her." And oh, it gets me teary just like saying that, because I just remember like my dad processing that information. And so Grandma explained to him, she gave him those letters. And so that's what sparked the journey to find my dad's birth family. So in 1997, my mom purchased a CD-ROM of white pages. It was all the names, phone numbers, addresses of everyone in the United States that was listed in the white pages of the phone book. So my mom purchased that, and they came up with a letter and decided to send it to all the different name combinations that went with the aliases Virginia was using, and all the different names that they had from those letters. And so they ended up mailing out hundreds of letters with return envelopes. These are some of the ones that came back. And so I'll go ahead and read the letter that they sent out and show you as well the return address letter that they could send back, where they could fill out a little questionnaire that my parents included in there to try and get information. Here's the letter, and it says, "To whom this may concern, my name is John Lee Bremer, and I am in search of anyone who may be related to me. I was born John Lee Clark on January 4th, 1948 at Bethany Hospital in Kansas City, Kansas, to Virginia Mabel Dice Clark, who was born in Quick City, Missouri. At the time of my birth, Virginia Clark listed her address as 921 Cherry, Kansas City, Missouri. My maternal grandmother is E.L. Anderson, living at the time on Terry Avenue in Seattle, Washington. Floyd J. Hebert was somehow involved with my adoption. His address at the Hamilton Hotel, room 219, Kansas City, Missouri, was used as a return address by Miss F.J. Virginia Hebert, who wrote letters regarding the adoption arrangements. According to the information I have been able to gather, I have at least 2 siblings." And when he says 2 siblings, that's because of what that adoption, what we saw earlier, where she had listed 2 unknown children before my dad. "Please understand, I am not doing this for any type of monetary gain. I merely want to know my heritage and my family medical history, something so many people take for granted." This gets me emotional. "If you do know of someone that I might be related to, please reply on the enclosed form. Also enclosed is a self-addressed stamped envelope for your convenience. Perhaps if you are my family, you will find it in your heart to contact me, or let me contact you and speak to you about this. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, John Bremer." That just gets to me, because you can hear how desperate my dad was to know where he came from. Okay, so enclosed was a self-addressed envelope, and then a little questionnaire for people to send back if they wanted to, or if they had information, and they could check off, "I have no information regarding your birth family," or "I have information regarding your birth family. You may contact me at," and like a name and address. If you wanted to put phone number, the hours, and then this is some information I have regarding your birth family. So they mailed these out to hundreds of people, you guys. I'm not exactly sure who received one of these, but it was someone, I believe, related to Floyd. And that person reached out to Tommy, so Thomas Hebert, who is my dad's brother, giving him the information. Tommy, my dad's full-blood brother, and his brother Gerald had no idea that my dad existed. Virginia and Floyd had never once mentioned my dad's existence. So they went their entire lives knowing about Beverly. They knew about Beverly, but they did not know about my dad. You gotta think Uncle Tommy and Uncle Gerald being in their 40s at the time, and then finding out you have a brother. Can you just imagine? My mom says she remembers when Tommy called my dad on the phone for the first time and was just kind of giving him the rundown, you know, of, okay, so so-and-so sent me this, and so-and-so knows this, and blah, blah, blah. And so Tommy's going through the whole thing. And my mom said that my dad was thinking, oh, this person's gonna be like a distant cousin or something like that. And so my dad was like, okay, so how would we be related? And Tommy was like, I would be your little brother. And I guess my dad was just like floored. And so then, you guys, a month later, in August of 1997, after my dad talking to Tommy on the phone and finding out he had another brother named Gerald, finding out Beverly's information and getting to talk to her as well. So we all drove down to Port Arthur, Texas to meet everyone. And yeah, you guys, you can definitely see the joy on my dad's face, getting to finally feel like he belongs, finally feel like he knows where he'll get to know where he came from, to finally have a family. Look how happy he is. This is the story of the brother that nobody knew about. And look how happy he is. And so, yeah, you guys, I just wanted to tell this story. I know I'm a mess now, but it just makes me so emotional and happy for him, even though he's gone. His brother had passed away before my dad did, quite a few years before that. His sister recently passed away over the past year. And so I know he's, you know, on the other side having those reunions with all those people that he never got to meet. Finally know where you came from, to find your heritage. My dad found out he's French Cajun. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's quite different from anything I've ever done here on my channel, but I felt like this story needed to be told because it is a true insane story of how from all that he finally, after 50 years, knew where he came from. You guys, so, you know, I just felt like it was a story that needed to be told. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so that you can be notified whenever I upload a new video. With all that being said, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Me and Sweet Betty ain't never seen a bear that could dance before. Well, it's a 1-step, 2-step, 3-step, 4. Follow Dakota and he dance some more. Dance, dance, Dakota, dance, all around the country store.